Disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
It's possible that even if you have to have CBDC in some form, that you're not destroying the banking system if you do it the way China is doing it. Now you have to remember, China only recently introduced their banking system, and it seems they were not willing to already give it up. They have already CBDC. It's still a pilot project, but it's introduced, among millions of people already. But it was introduced on purpose in such a way that it would not harm the banking system, and therefore is a more truthful sort of update of the old paper money. But of course, it still has the control aspect. So at least it's not killing the banking system. The way they do this is by requiring you to have a bank account in order to get CBDC. So it's not a direct account at the central bank. It's only through your bank that you can get it. You see how simple that is, and of course could be done over here, but they're not discussing it in say the ECB is not discussing it, because you see their agenda is to get rid of banks. But this alternative exists. But then, of course, the key problem is this control aspect, which at the moment they haven't stepped up in China, but that can be introduced any time. And that, of course, is a concern. Also, they never talk about the nature of this CBDC. What is it actually going to look like? They never talk about that.
Right.
But I heard one European central banker tell me what it's going to look like. He saw it. He was invited to one of the old central banks in Europe that are very much promoting this, and they showed him, and he's a top executive director of another central bank in Europe, and there's no reason to believe that he was telling me a story. And it was around this large and would be implanted under your skin. So that is the plan.
Right.
And of course, that has other implications on top of what we've mentioned, on top of the control aspects, because that actually enters your body. In my view, violates human dignity, and can be then used for even in terms of functionality beyond the monetary and economic transaction purposes. So highly dangerous, and definitely something we have to oppose. And so using cash is one of the things we can do to make sure that the hurdle will be higher for the central planners to introduce the CBDC.
CBDC is going to be the future currency of the world. It is necessary that every central bank, every country works on CBDCs.
India has been leading the front on digitalization. When they talk about digital public infrastructure, you talk about digital money, digital payments, and so on. And you yourself have been the pioneer in the issue of CBDCs. And you've been piloting this, and I think now you're trying to mainstream it. So what role do you see of CBDCs and digital payments playing in the Indian economy in terms of improving financial inclusion, innovation, and efficiency?
Well, thank you. I'm happy that you asked that question, because CBDC is going to be the future currency of the world. And it is necessary that every central bank, every country works on CBDCs. There's one reason, specific reason why I am saying that. Of course, paper currency will continue, because that is the kind of a fallback, that is the kind of an insurance against. Just imagine if there is a massive technology disaster or some massive shock, then, how do the transactions go on? So paper currencies will remain. They provide the necessary insurance against, against possible or what may look unlikely, but nothing is unlikely in today's world. So that is the kind of insurance for such crisis situations. But having said that, the world is moving towards digital payments. I think India has made excellent progress, and it's at the forefront of digital payments. Our UPI per day number of transactions have exceeded 10 billion transactions per day. We are doing 10 billion transactions. That is in the month, I think 10 billion transactions in the month. 10 billion transactions per month we are doing now. The UPI is doing. Coming to CBDCs, why I am saying it is very important? Because there are several, there are now several new animals or birds, whatever you call them, they are floating around under various names. Somebody calls it stable coins, somebody calls it cryptocurrencies. Our point of view is that let us be very careful in interpreting and understanding what consequences they have. On stable coins, the basic fundamental question that arises is, the fundamental question that begs an answer is whether governments and central banks are comfortable with private currency. Currency is a sovereign function which the sovereign delegates to the central bank in countries like India. So therefore, are we comfortable with private currency? So therefore, these new technology products which are coming and styling themselves as great innovation, their financial consequences, their negative consequences for domestic financial stability, for global financial stability, for domestic monetary system, for the global monetary order, all that needs to be understood. And we have published, RBI, I have myself spoken about it, so I'm not going to list out what are the potential threats. Right. They pose a threat, all kinds of threats, terror financing, money laundering, apart from, currencies like emerging market currencies, which will sort of cause the central bank itself will lose control over the monetary system. There are lots of challenges, and these are highly risky. Now, we don't want that kind of a thing. In fact, on such matters, whether it is stablecoin or it is cryptocurrencies or whatever you call it, I think we need to fully understand what are the risks before sort of trying to legitimize them. We need to know, before entering the water, how many sharks are there inside the water. I think that is how I would put it in a very commonplace language and very bluntly. Now, so therefore CBDC is important. The world is moving towards technology, and CBDCs have a major role because CBDC can really facilitate efficient, cost-effective and faster payments across jurisdictions. For cross-border payments, for cross-border transactions, CBDC can provide the solution. Even today, time is taken. Bank-to-bank transactions do take time. In fact, there is a cost. According to the latest estimates of the World Bank and others, still remittances cost about, on an average, 6% is the total cost for remittances. Now 6% is very high. It needs to go down. In today's technology era, it needs to go down. So CBDC can provide a solution to make cross-border payments faster, more efficient and cost effective. In India, Reserve Bank, we started the wholesale CBDC pilot project in November last year, and the retail mode we started in December. In the wholesale, initially we started with secondary market trading in government securities. Now we are extending it to overnight money markets, that is the wholesale segment. In the retail segment, we have now millions of customers who are enrolled into the pilot project. Almost every bank has been onboarded. The trials are going on. It's a learning experience for us, and the learning process has been very satisfactory, and every day there are new challenges which come. We try to understand what is the problem. So we are really taking it forward in a manner, and on this we are in active discussion also with other countries which are carrying out similar efforts. So now it's just about going to be a year of our 1 year of our CBDC pilot project. The learnings have been excellent, and more than what it was 1 year ago, we are even more convinced that CBDC can prove to be the most effective and efficient mode for cross-border payments in particular, other than, of course, domestic transactions. And this is not something which is very difficult. In fact, in India, we have a small, vegetable vendors who have been enrolled into this CBDC pilot project. Fruit shops, small vegetable vendors, they're all onboarded. And we have in India made our CBDC and the UPI interoperable.
Yes.
So it is not necessary that for CBDC you have, for the e-rupee, you have one QR code, and for UPI you have another QR code. In fact, UPI first we had streamlined the QR codes. It's a common interoperable QR code. Now the same QR code is interoperable with the CBDC. So naturally the efficiency of the system improves.
Disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event, and out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And there's going to be this war on terror, which there's no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax. But it's a way for the government to take over the American people. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, you know, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud, it's a farce. Because you can't define a winner. There's no one who's going to beat, so it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scare the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Humans injected with a tiny chip holding the key to all of their private information.
But as you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. So why do some experts say it's potentially deadly? CBS 46's Kim Fedek investigates.
It's used in key cards, prepaid tolls, even checked luggage. It's called RFID technology, or radio frequency identification. Small chips that store information.
So here's the chip.
And now that same technology is literally available in the flesh, with chips injected right into people's arms.
It says it burns a little bit. That's about it.
Atlanta firefighter John Santola was injected with the chip about the size of a grain of rice. When scanned, the number on the chip is linked to a database with Santola's medical history.
I had to go help me in case of an emergency.
Santola was chipped when Florida-based VeriChip Corporation set up a booth at an Atlanta firefighter conference. They market the chip primarily for safety reasons, storing medical information for first responders, Alzheimer's patients, even children.
It is the only product that has been approved by the FDA for this specific purpose.
The FDA approved the use of chips in humans in 2004, but since then it's caused quite a bit of controversy with some consumer groups, concerned about privacy, even health concerns.
These are very powerful tools, especially